Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Carroll from MyMMAnews.com and Carroll's Corner MMA podcast. Tonight, I am joined by Captain Jack Claffey, who will be fighting at BKFC on May 6th at the 25th installment of their show. Jack, how you doing?
I'm doing well, sir. How are you today?
I'm doing fantastic. Pleasure to have you on. Tell us a little bit about how your training's going and a little bit about what you're doing for training for this fight.
Yeah, there's a lot of different sort of aspects you have to cover because obviously it's not just boxing with the gloves being off. You have to have different defensive and different offensive considerations. So there's sparring with gloves, there's sparring with obviously very small MMA gloves, and then there's all the clinch work as well. We're trying to work on the clinch as much as possible. But what I found helps is, and I don't know if you've seen my opponent, Brandon Lambert, but he has this shock of green hair. So I've found that any sort of drill with a tennis ball has been quite useful. Just anything where I'm sort of tracking that sickly green sort of head movement, I think has been pretty useful for me right now.
There you go. Good way to eye in on it. So who are you training with right now? I believe I saw an interview. You said you're going to be training over in the UK for a while, and then the week before you're coming over to Florida. Who are you training with?
Yeah, so right now I'm training in Fighting Fit in Manchester. It's primarily an MMA gym, but it's also kind of where I started with my jiu-jitsu. And on fight week, I will also be training in the Jungle in Orlando, which was another MMA gym that I was training at quite frequently when I was living in Florida.
Awesome. Why did you pick bare knuckle boxing? Why did you sign with that? You have two fights as an MMA fighter, as an amateur. Why did you said you have a background in jiu-jitsu. Why didn't you stay with that and try to pursue that a little instead of jumping and going with bare knuckle boxing, which we know is vicious inside the ring?
Um, I was looking to get back into some sort of competitive sport, competitive combat sport. And honestly, I was approached to do bare knuckle. It's always something I'd said almost offhandedly that I'd like to do at some point. I thought, oh, it'd be quite fun. It would just be very interesting to do it. And the opportunity was just presented to me. And out of all of the options I had MMA options. I had further professional wrestling options that I could have explored as well. But bare knuckle boxing sounded like the most fun. And I'm saying that out loud. I'm not sure what that says about my personality type. But there you go.
Awesome. And tell us a little bit about what like similarities. Obviously, there's big differences, different sports, being a professional wrestler, MMA, and then bare knuckle boxing. But I'm sure there's similarities in training and just mental focus and fortitude that you need to do this. Take us through that a little bit.
Yeah, I think the main thing that's going to link all of them, obviously, there's a world of difference in terms of how you're applying or what techniques you're even using in all
Hmm.
those sports. Even between MMA and bare knuckle, the choices you're making are universes apart. But what you kind of alluded to, like a mental aspect, the dealing with like a performance anxiety. And it's been a while since I've actually like been in a live competitive format with a crowd there as well. So I think the thing that I'm bringing in is the all this practice I've had for decades now of feeling that flutter in your chest, that nervous, like, oh, we're about to do something that could go terribly wrong or, could go terribly right. And kind of recognizing for what that is and learning how to deal with it. And I've definitely, over the last year as well, I've definitely worked a lot more with a sports psychologist and kind of trying to figure myself out as well. So I'm feeling fairly confident, at least on the mental fortitude side of everything.
Awesome. Now, this sports psychologist is something we're starting to hear more and more about in sports in general, but more so in MMA. How much has that built your confidence and helped you sort through things?
Um, I don't know if it's helped with the confidence as a whole. Like I can like if you've ever seen me perform, you've ever seen me compete. When I'm performing competing, I'm kind of arrogant. I don't know if you've noticed this. I have a certain swagger to me, shall we say. But I don't carry that with me into like my everyday life as much. Or I didn't carry that into my everyday life as much. And you make up for other things that when you don't have confidence, you create a false bravado around yourself, or you dress up a bit more so people will be impressed. Um, I think the thing that sort of helped me is that with it was it would transfer the confidence that I felt when I was competing it more into my regular life. I actually found working with someone dealing with a very specific, like we're looking to do competition, looking for a very specific thing. I found I could extrapolate that or reverse engineer it and kind of apply it a bit more to my everyday life as well. So it helped me a lot through just kind of sorting out my own sort of like not only training but also like personal values, how I'm spending my time, why I'm spending
Mhm.
my time. If I have to, I don't get to spend as much time with my family right now because I'm training quite a bit. Like I'm pining for my dogs most of the time. Like I think, oh, I could maybe bring him in. Like I've got two dogs. One of them I brought to the gym semi frequently, but he hates me sparring. He absolutely cannot stand me sparring. So we can't have him in the gym. So you have to understand that like it's a very small sacrifice. The grand scheme of the world, it's a very small sacrifice, but like understanding that those hours are going to be well spent ultimately and being at peace with that and kind of happy with that.
Definitely. Now you're talking about the small sacrifices. I assume you and your wife had a discussion about joining bare knuckle boxing before you did that. How did that go? A conversation like that?
Oh, she was all on board. She's
Awesome.
completely on board. Yeah, absolutely. She's um extremely encouraging as an individual, I'll say to the very least. She was when I had opportunities for MMA, she was very encouraging with me with MMA. She always made it very clear that any time that I had to spend away that I needed to work was going to be fine because she understood it was something I enjoyed and it was going to like bring me happiness. And it's been a bit different because sometimes like I've had places where I've worked around the years where I wasn't always at my happiest, but I still kind of forced myself to go and forced
Mhm.
myself. And I think she's happier. She's happier seeing me happy, and I'm happier seeing her happy. So it's a good, in a very positive snake eating its tail kind of thing.
That's awesome that you have that kind of support system. Now talking, you're fighting Brandon Lambert. You're making your debut. He's 0-1. And what are the challenges you think he presents to you inside the ring?
It's very difficult to tell with Brandon because I can only honestly expect three things. I expect him to make weight. I expect him to fight, and I expect him to retire the next day. Those are the three things. He said he'll retire if I beat him. So on May 6th, we're gonna fight. On May 7th, we're gonna throw Brandon Lambert a retirement party. It's really all I kind of expect from him.
There you go. Awesome. Um, you know, uh, Trying to you're a featured fight in the BKFC for 25 down in Orlando, Florida. What does that mean to you? First fight in, you're a featured fight.
Oh, it's great. I hope it means that it translates to more eyes coming to bare knuckle boxing. I think I think it's a really interesting, like fun sport. It is a brutal sport. Like, let's be
Mhm.
frank, it is a brutal sport, but all combat sports are brutal sports. But I think it sounds more brutal than it really is at times. So if I bring some more eyes on it, that's great. That's kind of what I want to do. I really like. I don't want to say like fighting as a general term because it sounds like I just go down to the pub and like start poking people in the chest. But like I like fighting. I like martial arts. Like even though I'm moving into like pugilism, like this is still a martial art to me. So yeah, it's fun for me. So if I get to share that with people, I hope that the enthusiasm sort of translates as well.
Now, a lot of critics they saying they believe uh, you're getting the former professional fighters crossing over to MMA and stuff, and they believe it's gimmick trying to bring in ticket sales. What are your thoughts to that? Because we know that's not the case with all the fighters. You had Brock Lesnar was a champion. You're so far a successful combat sport martial artist. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, let's be clear here. Like it 100% is a gimmick, right?
Hmm.
Someone who comes in with a name from a different situation, it 100% is a gimmick. It creates interest. That's all a gimmick means. But when the bell rings, how much of that is it a gimmick? Because it's always, there's always going to be a gimmick. But when the bell rings, what happens then?
Hmm.
Because that's all it is. So like Brock Lesnar going to the UFC was 100% a gimmick. I never thought, oh wow, a Division One like NCAA wrestler with all these amazing like genetic. I didn't technically break it down. I was like, oh my god, that's Brock Lesnar. That's the guy that wrestled the Undertaker. He's gonna fight Randy Couture. That's amazing. Like, what world am I living in? It was a gimmick. It got me interested. The reason, Brock has stayed in the public consciousness is because there's more to it than that. Like he, for a long time, held the record for most UFC heavyweight title defenses. So there was substance there as well. So what I will say is, yes, 100%. I'm bringing some gimmick. I'm going to bring some flash. I want to bring some show to this. I think BKFC appreciates a little bit of showmanship, but I'm going to try and bring some substance as well. I'm not going to just come around and pitter patter with Brandon Lambert. We're taking our gloves off and getting in a fight.
That's awesome. What are your goals for here? How long? How many fights have you signed for? Who do you want next? I know you don't want to look forward past this opponent, but I'm sure you have someone in your mind like, hey, I want to fight this person inside the ring.
Yeah, I have signed for 3 fights for BKFC. I think it will be a case of we'll do those 3 fights and we'll take stock of everything because, it would be a case of my own personal skill development, like what's the skill ceiling, competition, like is potentially competition too rough or, too easy, like whatever it's going to be, I can't act on that information yet. And then just taking it from there, I think, me personally, in terms of who I'd like to fight next, I don't need to call out anyone. I will take a screen capture of like my, message requests sometimes, and you should see the amount of people that are calling me out. There are people in the top 5 of my weight class calling me out before I have had a fight. Would you believe that? Would you believe it? So I don't have to pick a fight. Everyone's picking a fight with me. I am the most pickable
Fun and
fighter in
laughter.
BKFC.
That's awesome. What fight or what weight class did you guys agree to fight at with Lambert?
We agreed to 145, so featherweight weight class.
Okay. Is cutting weight easy for you? An issue? Is this something new to you?
It's not something new to me. I fought at 155 in MMA. I'm aiming to be a bit leaner with this because of we are still grappling, but not grappling as significantly as we would be doing in MMA. So I felt like I didn't need to be as bulky dealing with takedowns. So I'm coming in a little bit leaner, which is why I felt that I could move the weight class down. I'm not cutting a huge amount of weight either. I'm cutting a bit of weight, but
Okay.
that Florida sun I will be pouring sweat from the moment I land. So I don't expect it's going to be a difficult cut by any stretch of the imagination. Rehydrating myself is going to be the difficult part.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The heat down in Florida is starting to pick up, so
Yeah.
definitely
I'm the
understand.
only man that lived in Florida for like half a decade and didn't get a tan.
I'm in the same boat. I don't tan at all, so I probably get a sunburn from the moon. But what I always ask this to local and professional fighters. What is one thing about you that nobody knows, but you would like to share with everyone and the fans?
Oh, nobody knows.
Could be anything. Doesn't have to be, I guess, fighting related.
No, the thing is, like, I felt like I've lived quite a public life. Like, I share a lot of like my interests on Instagram. Um, actually, some people know this. It's a bit of a cheat, but people are always surprised. I'm really into old school 70s punk and like 80s new wave. Like, I'm really into like that old hardcore New York punk as well. People are always really fascinated by that. Like, I do listen. I am like the typical, toff who listens to like a bit of jazz, a little bit classical, and all that rubbish. But my favorite music genre is punk rock.
Oh, is that what you listen to when you're ready to go out there right before you leave the locker room?
Oh, yeah. Right now, the ones that are on heavy rotation, I know these are more new wave, but it's like Blondie, Joy Division, and particularly the Ramones. The Ramones have like had a resurgence in my life. Like, I've not listened to them for a few years, and then I started was like, Blitzkrieg bot, and then you'd start listening to Rocket to Russia, and then I pretty much play Pinhead on the daily now. That's like my we need to get up and start going song is Pinhead. That's how I begin all my days now.
That's awesome. I know you have sponsors. If you want to give them a shout out, definitely
Oh,
find out who you
yeah, absolutely.
are.
Shout outs to Pure Dose CBD and of course Rumble Bros Boxing, and keep an eye out for CPR Canal Pirate Radio, which is a little project myself and the wife are putting together, which will hopefully release in a few weeks, maybe. We'll see.
Awesome. One more, like, what do you do for your personal time as a hobby to mentally focus and kind of bring yourself down to earth and just focus on life and then get re-energized back to get inside the competitive world?
I read a lot. I read a lot of books. I read a lot of comics as well. I'm more Japanese like manga than American comics. Although like I have a very fond spot for like Grant Morrison and Alan Moore and like a lot of the British comic writers from the 90s and the 80s. But yeah, I read a lot. I'm reading The Name of the Wind right now, I'm reading a lot of fantasy novels.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm reading The Name of the Wind. If anyone knows that one, it apparently has a lot of good reviews. And before that, I was reading a lot of books on King Arthur. Just
Nice.
really into sort of my medieval sort of fantasy kind of stuff right now. It takes me completely out of everything. Don't have to think about anything else for a little bit, and it's nice. It's my treat to and from the gym.
Awesome. Awesome. Have you seen that movie, The King, on Netflix?
The King. No, I'm so behind on what I
Okay.
have so many recommendations.
It's a good
Like
one.
it's ridiculous. The King.
Yeah, with Timothy Chalamet or something like that. Um,
Oh, okay. All
yeah,
right.
it's
I'm
really
up for some
good.
Timothy.
Yeah,
All
it's
right.
really good. Awesome.
It's a movie, not a series.
Yeah, it's a movie, not a series.
It's a
Yeah,
movie.
it's
Okay.
about King Henry V, I believe.
Oh, okay. So I assume there's some stuff with like the French, like
Yeah.
wars and
Yep.
whatnot in
Yeah,
there.
they're fighting the French and stuff.
Ah,
And yeah, it's really good. Definitely
cool.
recommend that. Awesome. You're fighting Brandon Lambert May 6th. Prediction: how do you see this going down?
So there's a little bit of a longer answer on this one. Brandon Lambert, as you said before, is 0-1 in BKFC. Um, his one loss is to someone who is now a bantamweight, and he was stopped within 3 rounds. So if Brandon can't take 3 rounds from someone who's 10 pounds lighter than me, that's my prediction.
All right,
I don't think I need to say anything more.
there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Captain Jack Claffey. Jack, I appreciate your time and coming on, and it's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much, sir. Had a good time.
Likewise, this is Carroll's Corner MMA Podcast, and we're signing off.